The twin suns of Tarnak 5 hung low in the orange sky as Jera adjusted the cloth around her shoulders and stepped into the job square. Her legs were tired, her back ached. But she kept walking. Her 2 children were waiting in a small metal shelter on the edge of the city. They had eaten only 1 meal in the last 2 days. Jera stood at the large job screen. It glowed with names of employers, tasks, and rewards. She raised her hand, selected a job as a cargo lifter, and pressed apply. A robotic voice replied in seconds. Application rejected. Candidate flagged as unfit due to dependence. Jera closed her eyes. She had heard the same words too many times. She moved to the next job. This one needed someone to clean waste systems. Disgusting work. But she didn't care. Rejected again. Position requires full availability. No children. Allowed. One alien, a thick-skinned trader with glowing eyes, saw her from behind the job board. He laughed and called out, "Still trying, single mother? Go find a charity tent." Others joined the laughter. Jera lowered her head and walked away. She didn't want pity. She wanted dignity. Work. A reason to wake up and not feel like dust under the boots of richer species. As she turned the corner, something strange caught her eye. A paper notice. A real paper. In this advanced galaxy, no one used paper anymore. It was pinned to a rusty wall near a closed-down mechanic shop. Help needed. No experience required, just willing hands. Speak human. Jera blinked. It was written in standard human language. Many aliens ignored it. Most couldn't even read it. But she had learned human speech long ago from a traveler who stayed on her home planet before the war. Her heart thumped. Maybe this was her only chance. The next day, Jera woke early. She cleaned her face with cold water, tied back her thick gray braids, and left before her children even opened their eyes. She kissed their foreheads and whispered, "Mama, we'll come back with food." The shop was at the edge of the city, old, dirty, and full of scrap metal outside. A broken sign hung above it. J. Carson Repairs. She pushed the door open. A bell rang. Inside, a tall human man stood beside a half-repaired droid. He wore grease-stained clothes and old boots. His hair was short, and his face was quiet, not angry, not kind, just still. He looked up. Jera took a deep breath. "I saw your notice," she said in clear human. "I want to work." The human studied her. She added, "I am strong. I learn fast. Please, I just need a chance." He walked closer. "Do you have any experience fixing machines?" "No," she admitted, voice shaking. "But I can clean, carry parts, watch and learn. I'm not useless." He looked her up and down, then asked one question. "Do you have children?" Jera's heart dropped. Here it comes again. "Yes," she whispered. "2." He nodded. "Good. That means you know how to work without quitting." She looked up, confused. The human held out a glove-covered hand. "Name's Jack Carson. You start now." Jera blinked. No laughter, no rejection, just a job, a chance. Thank you," she stammered, gripping his hand. He handed her a wrench. "Hold this, not the sharp end, just there. Good." Around her, several alien workers, tall, sharp-spined beings, watched from the corners of the shop. One of them scoffed. "He'll regret hiring her." But Jack didn't even look at them. He just handed Jera the next part and said, "Watch how I connect this line. You'll do the next one." Jera nodded. For the first time in months, her hands were not shaking from fear, but from hope. Jera was sure she would be fired within an hour. Her first morning at J. Carson Repairs was a disaster. The first tool she picked up slipped from her fingers. She nearly dropped a heavy battery pack. The alien workers nearby muttered under their breath in their own languages. Some even laughed loudly, not hiding their mockery. One of them, a tall, three-eyed lizard-like alien named Gralt, spoke in galactic standard, loud enough for her to hear. "Human Carson will learn the hard way. That mother is more burden than worker." Jera bit her lip. Her cheeks burned, but she stayed quiet. Jack, the human, didn't say much. He just pointed. Hand me the flux tube. She grabbed what she thought was the right part. It wasn't. He took it from her gently. That's a coil chamber. Try again. She nodded quickly and got the right one. He said nothing else, just kept working. After a while, Jack stood up and said, "Come with me." Jera followed him to the back of the workshop, her heart pounding. Maybe this was it. He'd change his mind, tell her to leave. But instead he opened a small door that led to a room with 2 broken hover carts, a bench, and a water tank. "This was storage," he said. "Clean it. It's yours." Jera stared at him. "Mine?" He nodded. "I figure you can't run home every time your kids need you. So bring them here tomorrow. They can stay in this room while you work." Jera blinked. Her throat felt tight. "You'd let me bring them here?" "Safe place is better than leaving them hungry and alone," Jack said simply. "If you're going to work here, I want your mind here. Not worried about them." Jera looked down. Her fingers curled into fists. "Why are you helping me?" she asked in a soft voice. No one else did. Jack shrugged. "Because I don't see a broken worker. I see someone who keeps getting up even when the galaxy keeps knocking her down. That's the kind of person I want on my crew." The next day, Jera brought her children, Lika, age 6, and Timon, age 3. They were quiet and scared at first, but when Jack gave them each a soft blanket and an old learning pad with cartoons, they smiled. Gralt scowled. "This isn't a daycare," he muttered to the others. Jera heard, but she didn't react. She had learned that silence was sometimes stronger than shouting. Later that day, Jack handed her a small broken cleaning drone. "I want you to fix this," he said. Jera stared at the wires, blinking. "But I don't know how." "You will," Jack replied. "Start by opening it, follow the lines, don't worry, I'm right here." She sat down and carefully opened the drone. Her hands were slow but steady. Jack watched without interrupting. "You have patience," he said. "Most rookies rush. You don't. That's a good thing." Jera's eyes lit up. As the sun set, she walked home with her children, tired but proud. For the first time in years, she had earned a small pay chip, enough to buy food. Real food. She gave Leka the first piece of hot bread and kissed Timon on the head. They all laughed that night, curled up in their old shelter. Jera looked up at the stars outside the torn roof and whispered, "Maybe this galaxy hasn't forgotten me after all." Jera stood at her workbench, the small cleaning drone still in pieces. Sweat rolled down her forehead as she adjusted the tiny wires inside. Around her, the repair shop was loud with tools, hammering and buzzing machines. But her hands moved, with care, slow, precise, focused. This was her second day, and already the air felt heavier. Gralt, the 3-eyed alien who hated her presence, kept pacing nearby. "She's going to short-circuit that unit," he whispered to another worker. "Then let's see if the human still keeps her." Jera heard it. She heard everything. But today she was different. Jack believed in her, and she had fed her. Children last night with her own earned credits. That feeling was stronger than their hate. Still, doubt lingered in her mind. What if they're right? What if I mess up? What if he sends me away like the others? But then she remembered Jack's voice. "You don't have to be perfect, just don't quit." Hours passed. Her back hurt. Her fingers were sore. But she finished the repairs on the drone. She stood up and called out, "Sir, I think it's ready." Jack walked over, wiped his hands, and pressed the activation button. For a moment, nothing happened. Jera held her breath. Then the drone beeped. Its eyes lit up. It hovered smoothly, spinning once before flying gently into the air. Jack raised one eyebrow and looked at her. "Nice work." A warm rush filled Jera's chest. She smiled, wide, real. But before she could enjoy it, a sudden crash shook the shop. A heavy power cell had fallen off a rack. Sparks flew. One of the workers cried out in panic as a fire started near the fuel tanks. "Move!" Jack shouted. Jera didn't think. She acted. She grabbed a fire gel tube, ran toward the flames, and sprayed hard. Others stepped back, scared, but Jera kept going. She remembered what Jack taught her about fire protocols. The fire hissed, then died. Silence followed. Everyone stared at her, some in shock, others in disbelief. Grault muttered, "Lucky guess." But Jack walked straight to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't panic, you solved the problem. That's the kind of worker I need." Later that evening, after the mess was cleaned, Jera sat in the small storage room with her children. Leica showed her a drawing she made, a picture of Jera holding a tool standing in front of a robot. "You're strong, Mama," she said proudly. "You're a fixer now." Jera held back tears. In just 2 days, her world had changed. Not because she had power or riches or armor like the galaxy's great warriors, but because one human had looked at her and seen more than failure. He had seen potential. But trouble was not far. That night, Grault sent a secret message to someone outside the workshop. A powerful alien contractor, one who hated humans and didn't want Jera to succeed. "She's getting too comfortable," Grault typed. "Time to remind her where she belongs." It started like a normal day. Jera arrived early, carrying warm food for her children, who were now comfortable in the storage room with their coloring pads and simple toys. She smiled at them, kissed their heads, and went to work. Jack nodded at her as she walked past. "Let's try wiring today," he said with a calm grin. She nodded, heart steady. She had fixed 3 drones already this week and was beginning to feel, maybe for the first time in years, capable. But someone didn't like that. Grault watched from the upper deck, holding a small data chip. It wasn't just jealousy anymore, it was personal. He believed Jera's presence made them all look weak, and he hated that the human trusted her. So he made a choice. While she was cleaning tools during lunch, he crept over to her workstation and slipped the chip into the side port of her assigned drone. It was small, untraceable. It would trigger an overload once activated. He smiled as he walked away. She'll be blamed, and Jack will regret trusting her. Later, Jack stood with a few clients showing off Jera's work. "This unit was repaired by one of our newest hires," he said, pointing at the silver drone on the bench. "Full systems check cleared, ready to launch." He gestured to Jera. "Power it on." She nodded, nervous but proud, and pressed the green switch. At first, nothing. Then a sharp whine echoed. Blue sparks exploded from the drone's core. A hot flash of light burst through the air. A nearby console caught fire. "Shut it down!" someone screamed. Jera jumped back, heart pounding. The smoke was thick. Alarms rang. A fire control bot rushed forward to extinguish the flames. Everyone stared. The clients turned to Jack, clearly angry. "You let her build this?" Jack's jaw tightened. Grault stepped forward with folded arms and an innocent tone. "She must have made a wiring mistake. Told you she wasn't ready." Jera's throat closed. She wanted to speak, but what could she say? She had checked everything twice. Jack didn't say anything at first. He just looked at the mess and then at Jera. "I need to check the logs," he said. Hours passed. The workshop was quiet now. No one spoke to her. Her children sat still in their room, worried after the noise. Jera sat on a crate outside, her head in her hands. "It's over. Just like every other time. I was stupid to think this would be different." Jack finally came out of his office. He, held something in his hand, the chip. He walked over and held it out to her. "This," he said, "was not part of your repair." Jera looked up, confused. "I checked the logs. You never touched that data port. This chip was added after your work was finished." Her eyes widened. "Then," Jack nodded, "someone tried to frame you." He walked into the shop and addressed everyone. "Someone here sabotaged a project and put lives at risk. That person doesn't belong in this shop." He looked straight at Grault, who froze. I've already sent the security footage to the authorities, Jack said. They'll deal with it. Gralt snarled but didn't argue. He stormed out, pushing over a box as he left. Jera felt her legs shaking. You believed me, she whispered. Jack looked at her. I believed the work. And I don't let good. People get punished for someone else's poison. She couldn't stop the tears this time, but they weren't from sadness. They were from something she hadn't felt in years. Justice. Later that night, Jera walked her children home with a new sense of peace. Leka held her hand and said, Mama, you're a hero. No, Jera whispered. I'm just someone who didn't give up. The workshop was quiet. Everyone had gone home hours ago. Even Jack had left early, saying he had to deliver parts to another station. Jera had stayed behind to clean and organize the back racks. Her children were fast asleep in their storage room, tucked under old blankets. She liked these moments, when the machines were silent, and she could hear herself think. But that night, something changed. A low hum echoed through the floor. Then a series of red lights flashed on the ceiling. Jera stood still, confused. Suddenly, a soft computerized voice spoke. Warning. Main core system overheating. Emergency shutdown in 6 minutes. Her heart jumped. She rushed toward the back room, the control hub. She had only been inside once, and only with Jack. She wasn't supposed to go there alone, but something in her chest told her this was serious. If the core fails, the workshop shuts down. Maybe forever. She opened the door. Inside, cables sparked. A cooling fan wasn't spinning. The core screen blinked erratically. The readings were bad. Very bad. Jera stared at it for a second, then remembered Jack's words. If the fan ever fails, the unit overheats. You'll see the error right here. She looked closer. Yes, fan 3 wasn't working, but the system wouldn't allow her to run a reset from the control board. The code was locked. She stepped back, breathing hard. Do I run and call Jack? Or try myself? She turned and ran, not out the door, but toward her workbench. Jera grabbed her toolkit and sprinted back to the core room. Her hands moved fast but careful. She unscrewed the side panel. The heat hit her like a wave. The inside of the fan motor was clogged with dust and wire threads. She had only cleaned a fan once. But she remembered how Jack did it. Bit by bit, she removed the blockage. Her fingers burned. One small shock stung her wrist, but she didn't stop. 4 minutes left. Once clean, she pulled a cable from her toolkit, a temporary power bypass. She had never done this trick herself. Only watched. No time to be scared. She attached the bypass and pressed the reboot switch. A spark shot out. But then, the fan roared. To life. The red lights faded. The warning alarm silenced. The system began to cool. Jera collapsed back against the wall, breathing hard. Her arms were shaking, but the workshop was safe. She looked at the glowing screen. System stable. She smiled, weakly. We're okay. The next morning, Jack arrived early and stopped cold when he saw Zara already working. You're here early, he said, raising an eyebrow. She looked up, smiled, and wiped her hands. Didn't go home. He looked confused. Why not? She handed him the system report from the core room. The log showed the overheating error and her actions. Jack read silently. Then slowly he looked up at her. You did this? Jera nodded. I remembered what you said about the fan. I didn't want the place to burn down. Jack didn't smile right away. Instead, he stepped forward and extended his hand. Come with me. He led her into the front of the shop. The other workers had just arrived and were listening in confusion. Jack turned to face them all. I want everyone to know something, he said. Last night, the core almost failed. If that had happened, this whole shop would have shut down. Jobs lost, contracts gone. Murmurs echoed through the crowd. But one person stayed behind. One person kept this place alive. He turned to Zara. From today, Zara is not just a repair hand. She is my assistant engineer. Anyone with a problem answers to her too. Gasps filled the room. Some workers looked shocked. Others looked ashamed. But Jera? She simply stood taller. Later, in the storage room, Leica hugged her tightly. Mama, do we get to stay? Jera smiled. Yes, baby. We stay. We rise. The workshop buzzed with energy. Jera had been working confidently all morning, guiding a younger worker through wire placement while keeping an eye on her repaired drones. She had grown comfortable now. Her children laughed in the storage room, and even the grumpiest aliens had started nodding to her with respect. But peace doesn't last long in places like this. The ground trembled softly. Outside, dust swirled as sleek black hovercrafts touched down one by one. Jack looked up from his datapad and froze. No warning? Jera stepped closer. What is it? He didn't answer right away. He just stared through the dusty window. Then finally, galactic inspectors. Jera's heart skipped. Inspections were rare, but when they came with power. Shops had been shut down before, workers arrested, licenses burned to ash, and Jack wasn't even in the registry. Yet he ran a quiet, independent shop, something many big companies didn't like. If they find a single fault, Jack muttered, we could lose everything. 3 inspectors entered, wearing polished armor suits with silver crests. Their eyes glowed with scanners. One held a tablet. Another sniffed the air like a hound. The third, a thin being with sharp mandibles, stepped forward. This is J. Carson Repairs? Jack nodded. Yes. Inspection begins. All systems open. Workers on standby. Before Jack could speak again, the inspector spread out and began scanning the machines, drones, tools, even the walls. Jack sighed. Jera, he whispered, you've seen more of this place than anyone. Stick close to them. Answer anything you can. If they get confused, it could be bad. Jera blinked. You want me to speak for the shop? I trust you, he said simply. Jera took a deep breath and followed the inspector with the tablet. He stopped at a repair station and tapped his screen. Who fixed this hover drone? I did, she said calmly. Your name? Jera. Assistant engineer. He raised an eyebrow. Qualifications? She swallowed. None. Except what I've learned by working here every day. And the fact that drone passed its flight test with no faults. He stared at her, then nodded slightly. Noted. He moved on. Another inspector asked about tool sterilization. She walked them to the back and showed them how the cleaning station worked. When they questioned her about emergency protocols, she led them to the fire controls and explained how she used the gel during the power cell fire. Outside, one inspector sent a report back to the enforcement board. Operator Jera, he wrote. Non-licensed, non-accredited, single mother, no formal education. But under performance notes, he added, practical knowledge, excellent. Reaction in crisis, excellent. Leadership potential, high. Hours passed. Finally, the lead inspector returned to Jack and Jera. This shop, he said, is under observation for operating outside registry lines. But, he paused, the work here is clean, safe, productive, and most surprising of all, your lead engineer is someone the system would normally ignore. Jera held her breath. The inspector turned to her. In all my inspections, I've never seen someone rise this fast under such pressure. You've kept this place running, defended it from failure, and even corrected your own peers. That takes more than skill. It takes courage. He looked at Jack. You have 1 week to register properly. After that, you're clear. Then they left. The moment they were gone, the entire workshop erupted into cheers. One worker clapped Jera on the back. Another offered her a drink. Even the quiet ones smiled. Jack stood beside her. They could have shut us down, he said. But they didn't, she replied. He smiled. Because of you. That night, as stars blinked across the sky, Jera tucked her children into their blankets and stood at the edge of the workshop, watching the lights flicker inside. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was leading. The Grand Galactic Expo was held once every solar cycle, a gathering of inventors, builders, creators, and engineers from across star systems. Only the best were invited. Xeno never imagined she'd be here, never even dreamed. And yet, here she stood, wearing a clean uniform, a silver name tag, standing beside Jack Carson, who had nominated her himself. The event hall was massive, its walls made of shimmering glass. Drones floated overhead, recording every moment for the broadcast. Millions would be watching. Her children clutched her hands tightly behind the stage curtain. "Are you scared, Mama?" Lika asked softly. Xeno smiled. Not anymore. Back home, their small repair shop had become famous. After the inspector's visit, Jack's shop was registered, protected, and flooded with requests from across the system. But what made it truly different was Xeno. She had trained 3 new workers, improved the safety protocols, and even repaired an old mech suit by herself. People began to notice. Articles were written, stories were shared, single mother saves. Failing workshop. Alien woman leads team to success. From rejection to respect. The rise of Xeno. And then the invite came, to speak at the expo. Jack had offered to go in her place, but Xeno had smiled and said, "No. They need to see me." Now standing at the center of the glowing stage, she faced the crowd. The lights dimmed. A soft voice announced, "Our next speaker, Xeno of Tarnak 5, mother, engineer, survivor." Applause echoed. Xeno stepped forward. She took a breath. Then began. "I was told I wasn't strong enough, that being a mother made me weak, that I was a burden, unfit, a waste of time." Her voice was steady. The room fell silent. "I begged for jobs and no one looked at me twice. I was tired, hungry. I had 2 children and no hope." She paused, eyes glancing to Jack in the front row. Then a human, just one, asked me a question no one else ever did. She smiled softly. "Can you learn?" A ripple moved through the audience. Xeno continued, her voice stronger now. "I made mistakes. I failed. I burned my fingers, dropped tools, faced sabotage, but I didn't stop." She raised her chin. "Because someone believed in me, and because my children were watching." Her daughter wiped her eyes proudly. The room held its breath. "I'm not a hero. I'm not a genius. I'm just someone who was told no 1,000 times and still got back up." Thunderous applause exploded across the hall. After her speech, dozens of beings came to meet her, offering projects, support, even partnerships. But Xeno didn't rush. She returned home to her children, to the little storage room turned bedroom, to the humming of repair tools, to the man who gave her a chance when no one else would. Weeks later, a metal plaque was placed outside the workshop. It read, "J. Carson Repairs, co-founded by lead engineer Xeno." Her name, on the building, on record, forever and far away in other systems, other single mothers, other outcasts, watched her story unfold on their screens. And for the first time they believed, maybe I can rise too.